Work session on February 22nd, 2023 to order at 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome the City of Laurel's Ethics Commission members who are joined us tonight. And I will give Mr. Hester, I'll move on, to agenda item 2, which is Ethics Ordinance Update. Mr. Hester, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's Chairman Hester, by the way. I'd like to just give a very brief overview here, so a few talking points, and leave most of the time for us to have a discussion where you can ask us questions and we can respond. I think that's going to be perhaps the most effective way to learn more about the Ethics Commission and the Ethics Ordinance of the City of Laurel. Yeah, we go back to 1998, which is when it was started. I was a long time ago. 1998. I happened to have been on the planning board at the time, and the mayor came to me and said, "Would you please help us form a new ethics law and a new ethics commission?" I said, "Sure." And so in 1998, we came up with the first ethics law. This was a requirement by the state of Maryland at that time, and it still is. And we have done a few iterations now of the ethics ordinance. We learn as we go and we improve as we go. Very recently, the state of Maryland decided that it was time for another update, not just to ours, but to every jurisdiction in the state of Maryland for their ethics ordinances, to have at least a commonality amongst them all, and to increase to some degree the requirements within it. And these are then to be parallel to that of the state of Maryland's ethics laws for the state of Maryland elected officials and employees and appointees and such. We've been working hard on this latest update. Fortunately, our ethics ordinance that the county council had passed several years ago, the latest revision, was quite good, and so we're not going to have to change our ethics ordinance too drastically. There are a few important points that we are going to need to change. But just want to be sure that we're all on the same page. What is ethics? Not everybody may have the same idea of ethics. Everybody has a slightly different thought when you say the word ethics. But it's basically recognizing that we have a system of government in the city of Laurel as well as the state of Maryland that's representative, that is maintaining the highest possible trust of the citizens. And the citizens trust in elected officials, appointed officials, and in the people working for a jurisdiction, that they are going to do everything that's going to be transparent, that's going to be in the best interest of all, that is not going to try and accrue any particular benefits or interest to any particular individuals. In other words, it's going to be impartial and for the benefit of everybody in a jurisdiction, all the citizens. Improper influence or even the appearance, and that this is very important, that we're not talking about just letter of the law. We're not talking about, does the law say exactly this? What it also includes, and includes very specifically in the law, is appearance. And so even though something may not be actual, the appearance of an ethical violation is critical, and it's something that we will pursue. We cannot be having even the appearance of an ethical lapse amongst anybody in the city of Laurel government and any part of it. And in order to do this, in part of the ethics ordinance, as required by the state of Maryland, there is an ethics commission. I'm the chair. The chair is elected every year by the other commissioners. I've been elected chair every year since 1998. It's not something I necessarily seek, but so far everybody wants me to continue, so I have been accepting their votes and accepting the position as chair. Fortunately, we have with us tonight our vice chair, Vice Chair Bardwell, right here to my right. And she is a wonderful vice chair, and she and I get along really well, and we all on the Ethics Commission, all of the commissioners, all 6 of us, 5 regular members plus 1 alternate. You might know the alternate, Luann Crook, who is, you might know her from her other life, but now she is an alternate on the Ethics Commission. The other members are Tony Drake, Robert Skaggs, and Ken Doms. So we all work very hard to do the best that we can. We also have in the legislation language that says, even more to the point about appearances, that we are to liberally construe the words of the ethics ordinance. Liberally construe the words to accomplish the purpose of the ethics ordinance. So again, we're not looking to be tight-fisted attorneys and say, well, if that word isn't exactly the right word, then we're not going to go down that path. We're going to be liberal in the way that we construe it, and this is what we're required to do by the ordinance. The goal of the Ethics Commission is to ensure compliance. We would be the happiest commission you have in the city if we never have to take action. For the most part, we think the elected officials, the appointed officials, and all of the employees of the city of Laurel are wonderful, ethical people. And we support them, and we really like to see that happen. And what we would like to see is a situation where we would never have to use our rather substantial powers to bring a case against somebody or to start issuing fines or consequences. We do have those powers, though, if we absolutely have to use them. But our hope is that we never have to. Our approach is try and find a way to educate people and get them to change their behavior if they're starting to stray a bit from the requirements of the ethics ordinance, and to get them to change their approach very quickly and to be a beacon for the rest of the city as to how to be ethical in the governance of our city. Who's covered by the ethics ordinance? Well, everybody, from the mayor down through the city council, to all of the appointed officials, to all of the city officials, police department, everybody is covered by the ethics ordinance. Some more specifically than others, some to a greater extent than others, but everybody is basically covered by the ethics ordinance to behave ethically. One of the aspects of the Ethics Commission that many of you deal with on a regular basis is the financial disclosure statements. These are statements that are required annually by those who are elected officials, the mayor and the city council, and it is a substantial form that they are required to fill out and to fill out honestly, and then submit through the Ethics Commission for the Ethics Commission to review. And if you don't submit it properly, then we will return it and say, go back and fix it. If you don't do that, then it starts to become a violation of the ethics ordinance. If you don't submit it in a timely way, there's a deadline on these every year, then there is a penalty. Currently, it's $2 a day. We expect it to be going up to $5 a day. And the total from $250 maximum to $500 maximum. $2 is just really not enough. And the state agrees that that's not enough. So we're going to be moving in that direction for the financial disclosure statements. Certain high-level people are also required to submit not the identical form that the mayor and city council, the elected officials, are to require, but a more simplified form. So all of the commissioners and board members of selected boards, not every single board, not every single commission, not every single committee, but those that have substantial controls on matters within the city are required to submit financial disclosure statements. Myself, Vice Chair Bardwell, all of our commission has to submit them. Many other boards and commissions are also required to submit these, and they are under review on the annual basis, and the penalties apply to us just as they do to everybody else. So these are really important. Not everybody understands all the requirements of them, and one of the things that the Ethics Commission welcomes warmly, and we eagerly hope that people will come to us and ask questions if they don't understand something. If they don't understand what kind of information is being requested, or what to include and what not to include on these financial disclosure statements, please come talk to us. We're nice people. We're not going to snap at you, and we're not going to wag our fingers or scold. We're going to say thank you for coming, and thank you for asking, and let us help you understand what it is that you need to include so that you can do this properly. Again, we want everybody to be a beacon of ethics within our city. We don't want any kind of a situation where someone's deciding that they don't have to do something, or they're going to do something their own way and just not the ethical way. One more point I wanted to raise has to do with lobbying and lobbyists. There are very specific requirements in the ethics ordinance regarding anybody who attempts to lobby anybody in the city. So this is something that perhaps affects council members and the mayor more than others, but also it certainly affects many of the commissioners and board members and even office directors and such within the city. If you have someone approach you and tries to convince you to do something, and it's not in public, they're coming to you privately, that's lobbying. That they cannot do until they come to the Ethics Commission and register as a lobbyist. And then if they give any kind of a gift, here's something that another important part of the ethics ordinance is what the heck is a gift? A gift is anything of value. It doesn't have to be cash. A gift could be a trip. It could be tickets to a ball game. It could be a nice dinner at a fancy restaurant. Those are all gifts. So if somebody tries to provide anything at all of value to you, they then become a lobbyist if they're going to ask anything at all from the city, whether it's at that moment or at any time in the future. So that's just something that it's very strict in the ethics ordinance. And it's, again, it's not just City of Laurel. This is every jurisdiction, and really in the state as well, because there's a lot of that going on in the state. And there are very substantial and severe penalties for people who lobby without being registered as a lobbyist. And there are substantial penalties for those who accept those people into their offices and talk with those people and listen to them in private and not in public. These kinds of things have to be in public. Communication with our officials have to be in public. It has to be open because we have an open government. We don't have a secret government. We have an open government. So, as I said, we do have this most recent requirement from the state of Maryland, and they have written a new ethics ordinance for every jurisdiction. And it's a generic one that includes some blanks in it where a local jurisdiction puts in the name of their jurisdiction. It also includes a few things where when they wrote it for themselves, say the state government, when a lobbyist comes to the state government, then we have to change that where we're talking about now for the city government. And so there are a few changes like that. We can make a few minor edits to it, but those edits can only be making it more strict. They cannot be loosening anything at all. It has to be as strict, if not more strict. And we also have to, before having the mayor and council vote and adopt it, it's going to have to be reviewed by the state of Maryland, by the state of Maryland Ethics Commission. Because if it's approved and then sent to them, and then they say, well, we don't agree with clause such and such, 2-58F1, then it has to come back and it has to be rewritten and reapproved by the city council. So rather than have the city council have taken action and then have the state turn it back and say no, it's probably best to have everyone here review it, provide any comments they may have, and then we can submit it to the state ethics commission, get their final okay, and once there's a final okay, it can come back and be approved elegantly by the City Council and Mayor, and as our newest version of the ethics ordinance. So again, there's not very much in the way of change in the new version versus the old version. A few minor things has to do with things like, excuse me, a couple of the definitions have been expanded to make it more clear to the average person in the public what's being meant. There are a few more additions here in terms of residences, and so in your financial disclosure statements, so those people who might be wealthy and have more than one residence will need to be declaring those other residences as well. Because they're, as I say, they're very minor kinds of things. We're switching some of the limits to things like penalties from $2 a day for late filing to $5. Some of the consequences that wind up going to the Court of Appeals, which if somebody doesn't like what we decide, then it goes to the Court of Appeals. We have our own attorney, so we do not use the city attorney because there would be a conflict of interest there. So our attorney would take something to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals has authority to issue fines of between $1,000 and $5,000 a day, with each day of continuing violation being considered as a new violation and an additional fine. And there are other things as well. Now, we do have great deal of authority. As the chair of the Ethics Commission, I've got the power of subpoena. We have the ability to issue various kinds of consequences directly. We also have the ability to request the mayor to issue more substantial consequences without having to go first to the circuit court of the state. So we have stepwise things in there. And again, the whole idea is just to keep people doing things right. And fortunately, mostly people do. One last thing I wanted to mention before you open this up for questions, or ask Vice Chair if she has any things she wanted to add. We have something that is a kind of get out of jail free card, sort of, not exactly, but along like that. And that is to ask for an advisory opinion. And so if you have any questions at all, I realize the ethics ordinance is 20 pages. It's written in legalese. If you're not an attorney, or if you don't have an attorney who can work with you to understand what it's saying, please come and talk with us first, or have your attorney come and talk to us to try and get some understanding as to what it's really saying. And then if it's something you want to proceed with that's kind of, maybe a little bit questionable, then you can ask for an advisory opinion. And you can ask for an advisory opinion anytime you like. You can ask for the advisory opinion not only for yourself, but even if there are some others that are doing something, you can ask us for an advisory opinion if somebody else's actions seem to be a little bit off. Please come to us with these requests for advisory opinions, because once we give you an advisory opinion, we're going to be very specific and say, yes, you can do A, B, and C, but no, you cannot do D, E, and F. And once you get that, if you stick with that and you do A, B, and C, you are not going to be subject to us coming back and say, well, wait a minute, we changed our mind. So ask for that advisory opinion. It will insulate you. It will be a Teflon suit if we agree to it. And when we agree to these things, we are very specific. So you have to stay within the metes and bounds of what it is that we say. Because we don't have to wait for a complaint. We can also work sui sponte. That's a legal term, sui sponte, S-U-I-S-P-O-N-T-E. That means we can make a complaint on our own. So anyone on the Ethics Commission can say, we as an Ethics Commission need to initiate a complaint on person X for Act Y. We don't have to have a citizen come in and complain. We don't have to have a person from the city of Laurel in any position in the city of Laurel come in and complain, although we welcome that if they want to. Or even if they want to come in on a, we prefer they come in under their own name, but if they want to be anonymous, we will accept anonymous complaints. But we will treat an anonymous complaint with a little more of a hard edge look to make sure that it's a real complaint and not just someone making mischief. So complaints can come from a lot of directions, including ourselves. So if we see something, if somebody lets us know something and we don't actually have a formal complaint before us, we can act sui sponte and start complaint on our own authority. Vice Chair, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Just to say good evening to the mayor and elected officials here this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to go over the ethics ordinance and those stipulations that apply to you to make sure that you're clear and open the floor for any questions that you may have to make sure that we're all compliant, we're all held accountable. So we just want everyone to be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hardwell. Are there any questions anybody would like to raise at this time? Even if you don't have questions right now, if there's something you want to sort of ask us privately, you're welcome to do that. If you want to give us a written request for an advisory opinion sometime in the near future, we warmly welcome those advisory opinion requests. But it has to be in writing. You have to have some specifics in it. It can't just be, can I be unethical? It has to be specific as to what exactly is the issue and what do you propose. So are there any questions you'd like to ask us here at this meeting?
All right, I'll start with Mayor Moan, then I'll move to Councilman Mitchell. All right, Councilman Mitchell.
I guess I don't have the proposed update, but I just wanted to know, I think I heard at the beginning that this update will go further in some aspects in the county. Is that accurate?
The state of Maryland is our legal authority, and the state of Maryland is requiring every jurisdiction, including Laurel, including the county, including every county, including every jurisdiction within the state that has a government, to have an ethics commission, and they are giving every single one of those ethics commissions a standard template that they have to follow and adjust for their own particular jurisdiction, but it cannot in any way be less than what the state has already provided. They can only make it more strict.
Sure. No, I mean, I was just questioning if the update would match what the county is looking to update.
It's not going to be identical. There's not going to be one ethics ordinance for every jurisdiction in the state.
I understand that.
There's one template that is going to be adjusted according to the specifics of each individual jurisdiction.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. I'll let some more people ask questions. I have a few more, but
yeah, but it's going to be 99% the same.
Thank you.
All right, any more comments or questions from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, a couple of questions for you. You say that appearance can be an ethical violation. Like, can you give me an example when you say an appearance can be a violation?
Right. Well, if somebody appears to be having private conversations with somebody, say, for example, one of our commissioners started having private conversations, even though there may not be an actual violation because of the substance of what they're talking about, that would be an appearance of a violation of the ethics ordinance.
Yeah.
Can I give another
Sure.
another example? Say if you're having dinner with a contractor or someone that does business with the city of Laurel, you may be paying for your own meal. However, it could give the appearance that this contractor or person that wants to do business with the city of Laurel is taking you out to dinner to try to, coerce you or entice you to do business. So that's an appearance example as well. You may be innocently paying for your own meal, saying, okay, we're just going to meet up here and have dinner. But from someone looking at whoever you're having dinner with, they may think otherwise, to build some type of speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in law enforcement, so I'm kind of stuck on appearance versus a hard charge. You charge with something, you got evidence to give people consequences, right? People don't get convicted or charged based on appearance. So I'm trying to, correspond that, to process that. That's all. I mean, I see what you're saying.
In ethics, it's a little different. In ethics, appearance is something that needs to be addressed. Now, whether or not there is a consequence in terms of a fine, you get fined $1,000 or $5,000, probably not. But do you get a cease and desist? Yeah.
Okay, I got you. So
you get, the best thing to do is to avoid all of these things.
Yeah.
Do not go out with the developer and have the developer, sort of be the one who's, if you're just an ordinary citizen, sitting out in Laurel Lakes or wherever, someplace in Laurel, and you see this sort of thing going on, and then you see that that developer gets some kind of a deal at some point in the future. That appearance is very damaging to the government and to the public trust.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that developer. That's a kind of like cut and dry one, but appearance, anything else could be. You could just be talking to a regular citizen that might want to whatever. They say, oh, that's the appearance. But what I'm taking from it, if it's an appearance, it's going to be an investigation follow up, but then the investigation to determine whether you violated something or not.
And we have the authority to investigate.
Got you. All right.
And we have the authority to issue subpoenas, not only for documents, but for people. We can do that.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down that road. We really don't.
I understand
But
now.
we
Thank
will
you.
if someone just says, I don't have to be ethical. We will go down that road, and we have in the past. We don't like it, but we will do it. We want you to comply voluntarily. We want you to see that ethics is essential to the functioning of our community, of our city. We don't want secret deals. We don't want people getting some kind of benefits, whether it's financial, whether, direct cash, whether it's something of value, whether it's political support, whether it's whatever. We don't want that sort of thing going on in our city, swapping those kinds of things for favors or advantageous situations for people.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much.
Do it all in the open.
Yeah.
Invite them to one of your city council meetings and have them, present something to the full city council. Do it in the open.
One final question.
Don't hide it.
I should know this question, but I don't. Your budget. What's the ethics? Your budget. How much do we city fund your budget? Could you say that you guys have a lawyer? So I was just curious on.
Right. Well, the city could say how much our attorney costs, but all of us work for free.
I know that. I'm saying, like, if you have to hire an attorney,
Pro
right?
bono.
The attorney got to be paid. So I was trying to do. You
And
guys got
we use this space to meet in, or we use a Zoom. So, but the only expenses are attorney, and then we also have city staff who supports us.
If I may, Mr. Sidnor, Councilman Sidnor, usually it's budgeted at approximately about $5,000 a year for attorney fees for the Ethics Commission.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But also, we do take advantage of City Administrator Pulley, and she is our executive director, so there's a certain amount of her time that accrues to us. We also have an administrative assistant, level 2, who is Laura Christopoulos, who also supports us. These people, these City of Laurel employees, do other work than just work for us, but they do support us. They are our staff. Who do our staff work when we need certain staff work. But most of the work is done by the commissioners who all work pro bono, including myself. We get nothing.
Thank you. I know you guys. I was just wondering the budget for the lawyer. That's
We
all.
get the good feeling that we're helping the city.
Councilman Mitchell?
Of course, thank you for your hard work, guys. Pro bono, like you said. One of the questions I had was, so when a lobbyist comes before, I guess, us and also like in public, they should announce themselves as a lobbyist. And then it kind of a second question to the lobbyist question was, I know we talked about, doing, meeting them in public, but like, you're just using a real life example. If we had lobbyists come before us and then they say, let's have continued conversations, or we met at a public restaurant and we, all of us paid our separate tabs. Is there an issue there?
Well, we understand there's the reality that you can't just, put walls around yourself. But if somebody approaches you and there's any flavor of it being a lobbying attempt, you should say, thank you. I'm sure we're all interested. Our next meeting where the public can come and talk to us is on such and such a day. Please come to the city council chambers on that day and raise your question before all of us. And so it's a matter of redirecting. If somebody offers you something of value, anything of value, again, not just cash, but anything of value, again, say thank you, really appreciate it. Why don't you come before the city council? And if you want to pay for something, well, okay, why don't you come before the city council and offer to give the city of Laurel a donation? To do something if the city of Laurel wants to do it. You need to keep redirecting these efforts, and they're going to be constant. I mean, I know what it is to get these kinds of efforts. I was a very senior level federal employee for 35 years. I was the highest levels in the State Department, and I was being approached all the time. And it's always a matter of just redirect in a kind and friendly and happy way and say, here's how you do it. Please talk to us in this way through this mechanism. Do it publicly. And if the city wants to do it as a city, if the mayor and city council wants to go ahead and do something, well, that's your prerogative. I urge you to do it. But just be very careful, because if there's any kind of actual or even appearance that somebody is somehow getting an inside track with somebody on the city council or the mayor, or, it's not healthy, because you have a lot of other companies out there, a lot of other individuals who are saying, well, wait a minute, I could have done something if I had that kind of inside track. I've got a company. Why didn't they come to me? Why did company X, get this special treatment? Just because they happen to know, somebody in the city government. It can't be that way. It has to be wide open for everybody. And if you're going to do something, say, great, let's put a contract out. Anybody who wants to do this. Or great, let's open up donations for anybody anywhere in the city who wants to make a donation to the city government in order to help support the city government fund something. That's fine. It's just, you can't do it as an individual. Because that's where you get into trouble with ethics. And again, it's just not only actual, it's also appearance.
No, I appreciate that. That's a very good, educating me on that. Of course, being new, right? Being freshman. My other question was, is there a certain appearance when it comes to solicitation of funds, like city funds? If you're like, let's just say if you're having an informal conversation with an affiliate of a nonprofit or a nonprofit, and they mention they need certain funds, and you're like, hey, I'll see if I can acquire that, or I'll try to acquire that for you. At what point, is that unethical? Or
the answer to that is no, you cannot help them acquire that. The answer to that is, please come to the city council meeting. You have open mic at every city council meeting, right? Because we have one at our ethics commission meetings, or any member of the public on almost every one of your meetings. You have a public opportunity where the public can come and stand at the mic and say, this is what we need. This is what we want. This is what we are asking of you. Say, our next meeting that's going to have that opportunity is on such and such a day. Please come to us and make your case. Bring some materials, show us what you can do. And then we as a city government, which is all of you and the mayor, to say yes or no, that we're going to try and help you. Or maybe there's already an existing program. If there's already an existing program, you can just say, well, you don't even need to come. Let's just say, well, the city already has a program for that. Go talk to such and such. But don't insert yourself into that process. if there's an artist who says, I really want to do some art for the city, and I need the city to help fund me, your response to that is, sounds great, thank you. We have an arts commission, and that arts commission has programs and opportunities for artists to come before them and ask for some kind of support from the city, where the city government has already budgeted it, all of you have already approved it. So you want to put them into the right track, into the right slots. But if there's not a slot, say, come to us and ask us to make a slot. Maybe we will and maybe we won't. But please don't put yourself in a difficult circumstance where they're going to start thinking that, I have some kind of an inside track here because I know a council member.
I understand. I'm clear.
The council member has promised me something in their mind, whether you've promised or not, but in their mind, they've got a promise now. That's very unhealthy for the city.
And so you wouldn't advise that, but I just wanted to better understand, as a freshman, at what point would it become like a question of, is it ethical or not, like this conversation?
Right from the very start. I mean, if you don't shut it down in the first minute, then you're starting to get into ethical territory, especially if you start entertaining the question. And even more so if you start saying, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
There's no way to stop people from coming up to you and say, hey, you're a member of the city council and thank you for your service. How do I get this? And your first response is, thank you for wanting to do something good for the city. Here's how you go about it. You come to either an open meeting, or if you happen to know something like that Arts Commission, example, or any of the other ones. If you want to get some kind of a change to your zoning, say, well, we have a zoning commission. We have a board of appeals if you don't like what the zoning commission has said. Go to them, because they're the ones who have been established by the government of the city of Laurel to address those questions and to do it legally and ethically. Please don't put yourself in between that, because it's not going to be good at the end.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council? All right.
I have some.
Sure, Councilman DeWalt.
Mr. Hester, I retired from the city with 28 years, and I paid into the police retirement fund.
Thank you for your service.
And I went to numerous ones when I first became a council member. I went to numerous retirement board meetings, and I voiced my opinion on trying to get the retirees a cost of living adjustment through that. And my understanding has always been that I can say what I want because I'm a vested person in that retirement system, and I could say it publicly and everything, except if it came to a vote, I would not be able to vote on it. I would have to recluse myself. And yet, there seems to be a opinion in the city that I can't say anything about the retirement or trying to propose a cost of living for our retirees, even though it's been 28 years since they had one. Then I see Governor Wes Moore, who's put a very lucrative retirement plan in for the veterans in the state of Maryland, which is an awesome plan he's going to do. And then I see him, I think it was last week or the week before, go in front of the legislative body and submit his plan. So he's doing this publicly. He's doing it out of the open. And who's going to benefit from that? The governor, because he's a veteran. And it's just the same thing as my circumstance when I publicly, or as a council member, when I'm sitting up here, and I tell people about, I talk about the retirement. So why is there always this haze over my head that it's not proper to do that? But here we have our governor now saying it, and he would be benefiting from it as a veteran. And he didn't even pay into the system. I have. So where's the ethics on that?
Well, if you want to request the state of Maryland Ethics Commission subject themselves to our Ethics Commission, we'll be happy to take them over and run them properly. But it's a different circumstance to a degree in that he seems to be, I don't know all the details, but from what I've seen, what little I've seen, he seems to be doing most of his talking publicly rather than behind closed doors with individuals. Maybe he is, I don't know. If he is, that's not right. But if he's doing it publicly, that's okay. Now, if there's something where somebody wants to become a lobbyist, you can become a lobbyist. You have to register as one. You have to report regularly on your lobbying activities. Whether or not you can do that as a council member, I think there's a bit of a conflict there. But I mean, as a council member, you have, I think, more authority and more power than any lobbyist because you can raise issues with your fellows on the council during any council meeting. You can vote the way that you feel is appropriate. Lobbyists can't do all of that. Now, if you have any colleagues who want to lobby for these issues, they're welcome to do that. But you have to then make sure that they understand they have to register as a lobbyist with the Laurel Ethics Commission. And there are forms on the Laurel Ethics Commission's website for people who want to register as a lobbyist. And then there are rules that they have to go by. As long as they go by those rules, then that's okay. They can be a lobbyist. But they have to play by those rules. And some of those rules include, have they given anything of any kind of value to any decision maker in the city? So that gets into the gift area. So if they've taken somebody out for a nice dinner somewhere, they have to report on their lobbyist reporting form that they took council member A out, or Mayor B, or whoever. And they have to report on that. And then we put that report next to the financial disclosure statement that everybody has to do on an annual basis. If a lobbyist said they gave something to, for example, a member of the council, and that member of a council has not reported on that, then that's a problem for that member of the council who's hiding that gift. So everybody has to be wide open on this. So there's not a good answer, I think, to having a member of the council also be a lobbyist. You can certainly come and talk to us and we can talk it over with you and see, whether or not you can do it that way. Or if the cleaner way to do it is to have, I'm sure you have colleagues who have served for a long time as well and who feel the same way that you do, who are not on the city council. And they can become lobbyists. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, so I kind of hear what you're saying, but it wasn't really clear saying, can he speak on it or not? Like, can he speak on the issue of retirement, or is it inappropriate and he'd be fined if he did?
Well, as far as, we can talk into more detail once we understand all the details better. I don't understand it fully. But the best thing is the advisory opinion. Just off the top of my head, I'm not necessarily seeing a major problem in telling a member of the council that they can't talk about things that they have their own ideas about. But the advisory opinion is really going to be necessary before I make any kind of a statement that says yes or no. Put it down in writing. Put as much detail in as you can. We're willing to read pages worth of stuff. Don't think it has to be in one paragraph. Give us the details and send it to us and say, please give me an advisory opinion on the following issue. We will, as a commission, sit down and work really hard and try and give you our very best answer. And it will be in writing, and then you can go by what that is in writing. If we say yes or no or somewhere in between, just follow what we tell you.
Mr. Hester, as far as being a lobbyist, from what I've seen of lobbyists, I would never want my name to appear that I'm a lobbyist from what I see what they do. So I wouldn't have no interest in being a lobbyist other than a council member trying to get the retirees some sort of benefit. But I also have another question concerning this. We just passed an elderly and veteran real estate tax program. Just so happens I voted on it, and I voted yes because it's a great program. I mean, I'm actually going around passing these applications out to my seniors. I'm going to put this in too. I'm going to benefit from this because I'm part of that elderly group now, and I will get 20% off my taxes. Now, did I have a right to vote on that, or do I have a right to speak on that in public?
Give us
Because there's plenty. I'm gonna find so many examples of what we vote on and what we receive, because I've been living in this city for 38 years.
Give us a written request for an advisory opinion, but voting on something on which you personally benefit is very suspect, just off the top of my head. But give us a request for an advisory opinion, give us the details. Include that, include all your other things. But if you're going to be personally benefiting, you're getting into some serious ethical issues, I think.
And so I guess the governor's wrong too for coming out in front of the legislation and talking about that veterans tax?
As I say, we're not the Ethics Commission for the state of Maryland. If you'd like to go to them and suggest that they make us their Ethics Commission, then we can make a comment on that. We can only do the city of Laurel ethics.
So I can't benefit from anything that I qualify for in the city of Laurel because I'm a council member. Is that basically what you're saying?
Give us a request for an advisory opinion. We can give a very specific answer.
I'll be doing a lot of them.
That's if you do 5 or 10
Oh
or
my
20.
God. I got so many other important things to do
However many
with
you
my
need to do.
constituents. That's just crazy to me.
However many you need to do if you're going to be personally benefiting and voting for your personal benefit.
I just did it. I did it. I'm guilty of this for sure, but I haven't applied yet. You can't apply till June 15th. So I'm not guilty of it yet because I haven't applied for it yet.
Was your vote essential in passing that?
What's that?
Was your vote essential in passing that?
No, it was unanimous. It's a great program. It's a great program.
Give us a request for an advisory opinion in writing with as much detail as you can put into it. At least 2 pages, 3, 4, 5 pages, or whatever it takes, but not just a short little paragraph. Give us the facts. The more facts we have, the more specific we can be in advising you.
Now, what if the county's coming out with one in, I believe, April? Because I'm going to get an application for that too. Am I allowed to get the tax break from the county that they're going to give this year?
Are you on the
because
county
I am
council
over
voting on this
65.
Within the county council?
What's that?
Are you on the county council?
No, I'm on the city council, but I just want to make sure that I'm allowed to do that too. Because there's a lot of other things that we vote on that, being a city resident and being an employee of the city and stuff like that, I guess I have to be very cautious in everything I do.
Anything to do with the city, yes. But with regard to the county, the state, the federal government, the government of Canada, anywhere, it's just, as a member of the city council for the city of Laurel, making decisions for the city of Laurel on matters for people in the city of Laurel, that's where you get the issues with the ethics ordinance, because it's the Laurel ethics ordinance. Even though we're fully compliant with the state, it's the Laurel ethics ordinance that you have to be careful with.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the work that you all do, and appreciate it. The issue that we sometimes deal with from the administration is, where is that trigger to say you're a lobbyist? If you read the definition and then you read, the section regarding lobbyists, which is in 258, there is, it's very broad, and it's, I think if that could be looked at and cleaned up through all some of your efforts and your commission's efforts, that may help as well, maybe to tighten up on some things. The the other thing is when somebody does register as a lobbyist, should we be putting I don't know if there's privacy or not. Should we be putting the lobbyists that have signed up on our webpage so that, mayor and city council, other in the audio, the general public know what's going on? We talk about, the lobbyist, but there just seems to be, when does that trigger? It's sometimes very confusing, and we always, there's been a couple. I think we had one for years, and now there's been a couple others. And bottom line is, we weren't sure, and we just said to be safe, just sign up for lobbying. So, just any thoughts on that? Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, the section on lobbyists is already pretty substantial. We could always add to it if you'd like to add to it to make it even more detailed.
It's a section of when it kicks in, Jim, that sometimes it's confusing.
We would fall back on the opening language in the ordinance that says that the provisions are to be liberally construed to accomplish the purpose. And so I've always thought that we haven't had enough people registered as lobbyists. I think the number ought to be larger given the number of people and the size of the budget in the city of Laurel. So I would think that it needs to be a larger number than it is. We haven't made a strong effort to go out, but perhaps we should. Perhaps it's time that we do make a stronger effort. But part of this effort, I think, needs the cooperation of the mayor and city council members sending people to us and saying, we think you need to be a lobbyist. And here's the papers you need to sign to register as one. So helping us identify who those people are and companies and whoever. Does that answer the question? We're open to any ideas, but always keep in mind that more strict, not less, if you're going to propose something.
Well, I think the biggest issue in particular for us is, it costs money to register. If
Right.
you might be somebody that can't afford that and you fall under this, or we're not sure, and we say to be fair, register, that is some concern. But also, I think the most important part is to make sure we're getting those that should be registering as lobbyists, and to make sure that, most importantly, the elected officials and staff realize that when somebody comes to see them, they are registered as a lobbyist. And but we'll take a look at it and
Clearly, we ought to have a list of everybody who's a registered lobbyist on the website so anybody can see. And any member of the council, if somebody approaches them, can just pull up our website and say, oh, there's the list, and that person is registered, or that person is not. And I need to tell them they need to go register. Now, registering as a lobbyist is not a very expensive sort of a thing. Becoming a lobbyist and doing wrong things can get very expensive.
Well, I think the other thing is people need to understand, just because you're a registered lobbyist with the state and with the county does not make you a lobbyist registered with the city of Laurel.
Exactly. You have to register with us separately. And then there are some paperwork requirements of submitting an annual report as well on your activities. And you have to identify everybody who is sort of supporting you as a lobbyist, whether it's an entity or an individual. Anybody you're representing for any reason.
Any more comments or questions from the council? All right. Next agenda item is sponsored events discussion. And Mr. Hester, Chairman Hester, you have the floor again.
I'm sorry?
Our next agenda item is a discussion on sponsored events.
Oh, okay,
And I'll give you the floor again, Chairman Hester.
sure. Well, this is something that we had put before us the Ethics Commission, we had put before us as a request for an advisory opinion. We did render an advisory opinion. The advisory opinion essentially says no, in very short language. It says that there are significant potential ethical issues regarding these. But we also said that if you want to go find a way forward on these, the way to do it is to have it done as a city government, not as an individual. So a council member cannot use the city seal, cannot use their city title, cannot basically in any way encourage any kind of contribution from anybody. Because you start getting into, it's not just actual, but also appearance of requiring people to provide things of value. It also gets into issues regarding political positions. City of Laurel is not a political entity. We are not Democrat. We are not Republican. We have no Democrats. We have no Republicans. We are a nonpartisan city government. Nobody here is a Democrat or Republican under our government. So you can't be having people running for office who are running as a Democrat or a Republican or as anything, an independent or whatever. You cannot have those kinds of people coming to an event that appears to be sponsored in some way by the City of Laurel without having the City of Laurel do it. You cannot have organizations that have political agendas, like we want to get a certain law passed. You cannot have those people come because then the City of Laurel is now being seen as sponsoring a certain political position. So if you want to have an event, great. Have it be a City of Laurel event. Have the people who are offering services or in kind or whatever, have the City of Laurel vet them, because there are some individuals who may have issues that are not fully managed by the City of Laurel, or not fully resolved. Somebody who hasn't paid their taxes. Somebody who's done something that the City of Laurel has found objectionable. Somebody who has an outstanding issue with the City of Laurel. Somebody who would like to come and eventually get some kind of a contract with the city. That's a problem. So by making it a city event and telling those people if they want to do something, have them come to the city, come before you on your open meetings and say, we would like to have this event, and then have the entire city decide whether or not they want to accept it.
So me personally, I don't have an issue things being city events, but speaking with people that want to participate to help put on city events, is there a gray area there?
If the city has to vet them first, and that's a gray area if they haven't been vetted by the city. The city has to decide whether or not the city wants to make any kind of contribution. For example, if somebody wants to use Granville Goody Park or one of the other parks for an event, the city needs to decide, is the city going to pay for that? There's a very high cost to renting the entire park. There's a high cost for additional police officers to come and provide security services. All those costs have to be identified and paid for. And the city, as a city government, has to decide it wants to do that.
Well, I mean, I would think if it's going on, the city agreed to do that. I don't think anyone operates events in the city without the city's approval as far as it happening. But I guess that was my only question. I'll let some of the other council members ask a question or two. Do you have any comments from the council? Councilman Sindor.
My question is, I totally understand what you're saying. It got to be sponsored by the city. Most events I do is sponsored by the city. I use the city. I just be the contact person. But just for general knowledge, if a person, a council member, and a councilman is always a councilman until they get out of office, but they're not using the city seal, not using their councilman title. They say John Doe working with Sally J Foundation to put on a back to school drive. Even though we know John Doe is a councilman in Laurel, but he's not using his council member in front of him is not using the city seal. Would that be appropriate?
Well, you could ask for an advisory opinion if you give
Gotcha.
us the details.
Okay.
But in general, you get into the whole area of appearances.
Got you.
And if the appearance is that it's a city council member,
I got
probably
you.
not.
So just ask for advisory opinion. Got it. Thank you.
Or if you want to encourage something, say, the city is full of all kinds of volunteer organizations. Go over to Lars. Go over to the Church of Something. They're happy to do these kinds of events. And you can be that sort of intermediary to hook them up with the right organization without having to be yourself, or not you, but, or even the city. The city's got wonderful volunteer organizations. Tell them to go to those organizations and let them come to the city if they need any city resources of any kind.
Thank you.
Any other Councilman Mitchell?
I guess it's more of a two-part question. What would be, I guess, the opinion if it was in a location, that didn't need city resources, and didn't necessarily, require the additional oversight as far as, police, ambulances, things of that nature. And then my second question was just to get clarity. I know that I heard something about insignia and seal. So would that same thing apply to clothing, for example? Like two examples. One, if I was at a polling place and I'm handing out, a sample ballot and saying, hey, I'm a city council person, vote for this person or vote for this ballot. Is that problematic as well?
Well, the second question is, no, you can do that. That's part of, every citizen's right, at an election to pass out that kind of information. But don't do it as the city of Laurel recommends this person.
Okay. So you could say as a city council person, and even if this person is on a slate of Democrats, in which, as a city council person, we're nonpartisan.
There are no Democrats in Laurel.
I mean, maybe so, but when they're running for other office.
My point is we are a nonpartisan government. There are no Democrats. There are no Republicans. There are no anythings here. It's just people wanting to serve the community.
No, I understand that, but it might have a D next to their name and say Democratic sample ballot.
You're starting into an issue as soon as you put a D next to it.
Sure.
Because now you're turning a city of Laurel election into a partisan election.
Well, I was saying their name generally sometimes has the D and the R, especially depending on the election. So you can kind of deduce
Well, if your name
who is
spelled
who.
with maybe a D or something.
Sure.
Your name has an R in it, so does that mean that you're a Republican? No.
No, but if it has that two parentheses, I would definitely be a Republican then.
Yeah, but we're saying don't do it.
Gotcha.
Because now you're starting to put Laurel into a political circumstance, and we are not a political entity. You
Gotcha.
cannot be political in Laurel.
Understood. Gotcha.
If you want to go, support a state representative, great. A county one, great. But don't do it as someone from Laurel.
Understood.
You can be a Laurel citizen and support them, but you can't be somebody who's saying, council member such and such supports Democrat so and so. Or you can't invite Democrat so and so to come and speak at an event without also inviting all the other candidates from both parties.
No, I remember that from Bowie State. I wanted to invite the Green Party. I had to invite everybody. So
That's right.
I definitely remember that.
You have to invite the Libertarians. You have to invite the Republicans. You have to invite everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Before I go to
We're
Miss,
nonpartisan.
before I
You
go to
wanna be
Miss,
partisan, run for office for the county. County's got council members, and they're partisan. State has them. Run for the state office if you want to be partisan. That's fine.
Chairman Hester, so across the state, across the county, mayors, council members endorsed political candidates. Are you telling me that's an issue?
I see it as an issue, yeah.
Is there,
If it's done on a partisan way, yeah. Because we're a nonpartisan organization here.
but who's in office affects our city?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Who's in office at the higher ranks of the county, state affects our city, even the federal government?
Well, we are an independent city. We have our own government. We have much of our own services, not everything, but much of our own services. And our government manages our city. There are some aspects of things going on in the city that are being managed by the state or by the county. But, you know, we really are an independent organization, and you are the head of that independent organization.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not up to the county council or mayor or anybody to say, you know, we want so-and-so elected. Because you're all representing the city. You're all representing all the citizens, and not every citizen in the city of Laurel, you know, agrees necessarily with.
I'm going to let
political
Mrs.
position.
Councilman Sidner go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up what Councilmember Smith said, I was going to ask the same question because this previous election, I'm just using the example of Governor Westmore election. Governor Westmore called probably the whole municipality in Prince George County, not only Governor Westmore, but all the candidates was calling council members from Prince George municipality for their endorsement, where they can say that, you know, Laurel Councilmember Keith Sidnor endorsed, you know, Westmore for governor, or Peter French or whatever. They was calling us for that. And at the same time, I think District 21, sometime they endorse, or other district endorse city council candidates for office. So basically what you're saying, well, from the process, that when election come, a Democratic candidate, again, a Democratic incumbent in office cannot endorse a city council member because we're nonpartisan. So if District 21 say, I want to endorse Keith Sidnor for Ward 2 council member, they cannot endorse me based on our ethics.
You just say thank you, but no thank you. We're nonpartisan.
Same thing, just to follow up, when the next election come, Attorney General Anthony Brown called Keith Sidnor and said, can I use you for endorsement? And I can't.
You can say thank you for thinking of me, but we're nonpartisan.
Okay. And the whole Prince
Go
George
talk to the
municipality
county
is in
council
violation
for
of that. I know we got our own in the city of Laurel, but I guess that's something we need to take up with the Prince George Municipality Association that we're in, because I don't know, but you saying the city of Laurel, don't worry about that. You saying the city of Laurel, our ethics, we cannot do that. We're not worrying about Bladensburg or Greenbelt. They got their own code of ethics. But what you saying tonight, the city of Laurel cannot endorse anyone, and can no candidate endorse a candidate from the city of Laurel.
Right.
Okay.
If it's partisan.
Well, Chairman Hester, you said you've been here since 1998.
Actually, before then, but ethics since 1998.
Ethics since 1998.
This is my 31st year serving the city.
And since this is your first year?
31st.
31st. Thank you. So, in the past election cycles, that has been done, where our incumbents at the Democratic office for the 21st delegation, they endorse candidates for the municipalities. So why is it an issue now? You're saying that now, but I'm saying it's been done before. When did that issue
Just
arise?
because something's been done before doesn't make it right.
So where was your opinion on it before?
We weren't given that question. But now that you're raising it, if it happens again, maybe we might do something sui sponte.
You said earlier, right? I don't want to be the dead horse, but you said you guys don't need nobody to raise a question. You can do it on investigation. So I'm assuming you guys live inside the city of Laurel and see campaign material going around with city councilman names on it. I don't know if you have or not, but it's obvious that around campaign season, we don't need a citizen to come before the Ethics Commission say Keith Sidnor is in violation. You can see my name on somebody's flyer if you see that. If you would have saw that, then you guys would have raised the issue then. So I'm assuming you guys never saw any of that campaign material that was going around for the past, since I've been on the council. I got on the council 2017, so I only can speak for 2017. That's all
I
I
personally
want.
haven't seen that, but now that you're mentioning it, if you'd like to send it to me, I'd be happy to give you, have the commission give you an advisory opinion.
Thank you.
But you can't be doing that sort of thing.
So Chairman Hester, I have a quick question. I'm in like political literature, sometimes people might put your likeness without your permission. Of course, that's perfectly legal. So in what predicament does that leave you then? Because as he's saying, they're passing around
Well,
a
we
bunch
would
of
come and say,
literature.
well, if it was done without your knowledge, without your approval, then we wouldn't necessarily do anything other than to ask you to go and ask that person to cease and desist. Or if you wanted us to go to that person, we would also say that cease and desist, you're using somebody's image illegally.
Understood.
I mean, I can't stop somebody, when I go to the post office on Main Street and somebody snaps my picture like sometimes people do. If they want to put my picture on something and say, such and such, I mean, that's not me. That's, all I can do is say, don't do it anymore. Cease and desist. You don't have my permission.
And so, Mr. Hester, one more question. How does this advisory opinion, like I write you that I would like advisory opinion, and then like
You write us a memo or a
Okay.
letter saying, Dear Laurel Ethics Commission, my name is Martin Mitchell. I'm a city council member, and I would like to request an advisory opinion on the following matter. Then you lay out in several paragraphs, not just one sentence or two, but several paragraphs, give us as much detail as you can, what the situation is and what you're requesting the opinion for.
and is it just the commission itself that reviews it for the advice, or is it like a third party that
The
would help?
commission is the independent
The
organization.
commission is the
that reviews
okay.
it.
Understood. I gotcha.
By the way, we're all city of Laurel citizens. We are the city of Laurel. At least 6 of us anyway. We're appointed by the city council, which is you. We're confirmed by you. We're appointed by the mayor. We serve a standard term of office. And at the end of that term of office, if the mayor wants to request that we stay on for another term, he'll request us. If we agree, then we come before you, the city council, for you to confirm. Once you confirm it, then the mayor can appoint us again. And we all work pro bono. And we all have rather substantial qualifications when it comes to ethics. For example, Vice Chair
Councilman DeWalt.
Bardwell here is a CPA. CPAs, professionals have very, very strict ethics.
We have a
I'm
question from Councilman
Mr.
DeWalt.
Hester, just-
But we have extreme ethics requirements.
Just one more question, please. You said in your overview about the ethics ordinance that every jurisdiction, and I actually wrote it down, that every jurisdiction in the state, and including us, are going to be parallel to the state of Maryland with their ethics.
We already are, but we're continuing to be.
Yeah. Okay. And but I still have an issue that when you see our governor testifying for a bill in front of the legislative body, and he's going to benefit from them, and nothing's going to happen to him. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that that we can't be the same as far as if we're going to be parallel to the state of Maryland, that we can't be the same in doing what our governor does.
Again, we are not the Maryland State Ethics Commission. Well, they manage their law in the way they manage it. They do not come to us for our guidance. We have our own. It is parallel to the state's. It is 98% identical to it. Every jurisdiction in the state of Maryland is 98, 99% identical. And each jurisdiction has the responsibility to implement their ethics ordinance the best they can. I think we're one of the better ones. I'm very proud of the way that we implement our ethics ordinance. Now, we cannot hold the mayor or the governor responsible because the governor does not fall under our jurisdiction. And I don't know what the State Ethics Commission is doing or not. They do a lot of things quietly.
I have another question from Councilman Cole.
Chairman Hester, I was listening to this, hearing that we all have the same relative ethics ordinance, about 98, 99%. Is it different in Laurel because we're nonpartisan in our government when they're all nonpartisan, even the county and them, even though they put their own party next to theirs. So is that a way that they get around this different endorsement issue? Like they run as a how does that work in the other municipalities? Is that why
I'm
we're
not in
different?
charge of them. Maybe we could have some.
There's about 3 or 4 municipalities that are partisan in the state of Maryland. Most all in Prince George's are nonpartisan. So there's about 3.
I can only speak for City of Laurel and the City of Laurel Ethics Commission and the City of Laurel Ethics Ordinance. And I'm very proud of the way that we have a gentle and kind approach until we're forced into a corner where we come out with some very severe kinds of responses. We don't want to be severe unless we're forced into it.
Jim, I think the other thing that has been done before is you all confer back and forth with the state as well
Correct.
on issues. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Councilman Sidnor?
This might be a Board of Election question, but I think this might be an ethics question also. Campaign finance, who can you accept money from? If a Republican or a Democrat give you money, but they're not giving you money as a Republican, Democrat, they're giving you money as a person who's donating to your campaign, but you know that person is a registered Democrat or a registered Republican, can you accept a campaign donation from that individual?
We do not cover campaign finance.
Thank you.
Talk to the city attorney. Maybe the mayor can give you some advice.
First off, you're accepting funds from a resident. You're not asking that resident, are you a Democrat or Republican? And when you file your disclosure forms, nor does it say and ask whether Craig Moe is a Democrat or a Republican. Most people in this city and most cities that know their elected officials kind of know where people stand. So whether I have my shirt on or not, they're going to know what the chairman is saying is when you do those things, it brings the city into it. And that's where
I knew the answer to that
you
question.
get to that perception.
We don't file, when you file the treasurer, it's actually the person name who gave you the money and the address. They don't actually all that.
There's the
Just
campaign finance
since we
law,
was
and
talking
your
about
treasurers
partisans.
of your
Yeah.
campaigns, whether it's you
Yeah.
personally or somebody
Right.
else.
Yeah, I knew the answer to the
Reporting
question.
requirements and laws and such that govern that.
Yeah, but
That's
thank
not
you.
ethics.
Yeah, I got you. I knew it. Thank you.
In some ways it
Yes,
is,
ma'am.
but it's not actually covered by us.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
And so I got a decent question. I got a decent understanding about, the elections. I just wanted to better understand, like, for like clothing, and like, let's say clothing and printed materials. Would that same question apply? Like, if I went out with my own money and printed, Councilman Martin Mitchell and put the city seal on there, is that an issue?
Well, I mean, if you're elected councilman or council member, that's great. Just don't put D or R afterwards. Just don't make it sort of council member Mitchell supports the following candidates for running for elective office in the state or federally, or any particular new ordinances or laws that the state is considering, or
No,
just simply vote for council member Mitchell. That's
it
that's
wasn't
nice.
really election related. Like, let's say if I wanted my Letterman jacket, and I got it, went to the shop, got it worked on, but it has the council seal and name, but of course signed off or advised that. Is that okay? Nothing to do with elections, really, but just brandishing.
Give us a request for an advisory opinion, and we can look at the details and give you very specific advice.
Okay. I got you.
Just,
I mean, it's hard to go off of generalities, especially
the
with
city seal and all the city logos are required. They're not trademarked or registered, but they are required under our own legislation to have permission to use those insignias. And that was passed by the city council, so there is.
Because I've seen questions raised about people and insignias before.
Not worried about it's anybody that may be listening. You're an elected official, so
Okay.
there's
And printed material as well. Okay, cool.
And so are there any more comments? Just about anything at this point. Doesn't have to be on the same thing. No? All right. All right. Thank you for coming out. If we have any more comments, I'm sure we'll write. And we learned about the advisory opinion. And we'll be in touch. Thank you.
I do
Thank you
think
for inviting us, and we're welcome. Any people want to ask us any questions, if in the future you want to have us come back 6 months, a year, whatever from now, we're happy to do that. So we're here to work with you. We're not here to work against you.
Christian, there are changes and all. When do you all are looking to get that to council? I think it's April.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Hester and I were just talking briefly before the meeting. We need to send it to the state first to make sure that we don't need to change anything. Once we hear back from the state, then we plan to bring it to council. Hopefully, if the state moves fairly quickly, we can have it in the spring to the council. It's up to the state, but hopefully very soon.
It's coming to you very soon, but it's probably not best for you to have a full disclosure or full discussion and then vote. And then it goes to the State Ethics Commission and they say, well, we want to change clause 1, 2, and 3. And it comes back and your vote has been voided. And it's probably better to let them give you an okay before it comes to you for your final approval.
Well, if there's no further discussion, this meeting's adjourned.